Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the Ahsoka After Show, the Virtual Cantina's Ahsoka After Show, presented by the Jedi Archives. That's us. Today, I'm John.
I'm Bryce.
And I'm Mike.
Uh, Today, we're going to do. Is this our fifth episode? Doing the sixth?
Yes.
Yeah, it's our
Correct.
fifth episode reviewing the sixth part because they're called parts of Ahsoka.
Yes.
What is it titled again, guys?
Far, far
Far,
away.
far away. And the great thing about this is that anybody that was watching the live streams from their home or in London, which I happen to have been there, um, Dave Filoni goes, "Do you want to know where he is?" And he says, "He's far, far away." So he told us the episode
That's funny.
at Celebration.
Sure did.
I didn't
Sure
know
did.
that. I didn't
Yes.
know that. That's so
Yep.
cool.
He sure did. And at first we thought he was being silly. He's like, "Do you want to know where Ezra is?" And was like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's far, far away." And we're like,
Yeah.
That's so
"Ah." But he was
Everything
actually
that
right.
man does is deliberate. Deliberate.
Yes.
All
He's
right,
a sneaky one.
let's do initial thoughts, guys. What were your initial thoughts?
It was a great episode. It didn't have the heartstrings like the previous one did, but that was totally okay because I think what we got was great and it was necessary.
Mike, what was
I
your
agree.
initial thoughts?
I agree. I really like this episode. Now, of course, every episode can't have the same level of high intensity like the previous episode because then it would just be like too much. We'd get burnt out. So I think this is great for storytelling, building character, which I love character building because I'm a reader and I prefer, the slow burn and I like that whole build up. So it makes it much more satisfying than just the quick, boom. I do like that as well. So last episode was great. The action was great, but I don't just want action after action because there's no meaning for it. I thought this was great. The whole building of the characters and getting to know them more
And
deeply.
I
So
didn't feel it was fan service either. I did not
no,
feel fan service in this one.
there was some, but it was like
Yeah, but it
I
wasn't
get to
like
my
the
notes.
last episode. Like the last
Yeah,
episode, just it was beautiful fan service, and it
absolutely.
did help drive the story at the same time. I just felt like this wasn't a very fan servicey episode, but it drove the story even more.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
What about
thought it
you,
was a
John?
great episode. A new chapter in my mind, almost like a new season, a new story. You had your first five, it was Ahsoka's journey, and then this one had nothing to do with Ahsoka. This is like Sabine's journey, I'm assuming, but it's a new story, a new moving the story along, which is great. Not just working on Ahsoka, her inner demons, and all that. That's settled. Let's move on to the story. Not a lot of episodes left, just a little rough, but at least we're moving along. And really, what we all want to see, we want to see the story play out, which is what we're here for. We love story. I don't think too much fan service. I thought it was already fresh. I really liked it a lot.
Mhm.
Really enjoyed a lot of it. Of course, we saw some awesome things. We'll get to all those in a little bit. A lot of really cool stuff we did see, and I like that there was no when we did see our two reveals. It was almost exactly how I kind of predicted. It's like we're gonna see them right now. It wasn't like took off the helmet and there's nothing like that. It's like all right, we're gonna see them right now. So that was not jarring and not mystery box or anything like that. It was like this is the appropriate time to see them, not the last scene of the series or something like that. So I really enjoyed it. Good storytelling on this episode. So
Also, a great cliffhanger at the end of this episode
yeah.
too.
So let's get into Mike's notes because I know Mike has a lot of notes.
I have a lot of notes.
I haven't stopped because Mike's got them all covered. I'm just gonna
Got a lot
read
of
off
notes.
Mike's notes. Mine just conflicted with yours. I'm just gonna let Mike do it and I'll comment on his notes.
No conflict, no conflicts at all. Because I figure, if you guys bring something up that's in my notes, I'll just bring it up at that time as well too. So not a problem. But I like to go chronologically with the episode. So it starts out at the beginning. and you hear the Purgle at the start, right? That was pretty cool. You hear them first before you see them. And then Ahsoka and Hu Yang are traveling inside the Purgle to Peridia. And Hu Yang remarks,
We don't know that.
well, we know
Last
that they're.
episode, she said, "Do you?" Because Huang asked, "Do you?" Or Hera asked. I don't remember now. I don't remember who asked, but somebody asked, like, "Do you? Do you know where the whales are going to pop you out?" And Ahsoka says, "I have
Yeah.
no idea,
She was like comfortable with
Right.
it.
but
Yeah.
I will find Ezra and Sabine. I promise."
So we're
She
assuming.
does not know. Yeah, she does not know, and I think they
She's-
kind of confirmed that at the beginning too. Like, they didn't really know.
Yeah, she's trusting in the Force. You know,
I,
she's leaving
I
it
do
to the
want to
Yeah,
say,
very much so.
I do want to say one thing before we move on. When I heard them say Peridia, I just don't know why, but I thought Duridia or from
Oh yeah,
Spaceballs.
Well,
Duridia.
ludicrous speed, ludicrous
I
speed.
had to rewind. I was like, we got ludicrous speed, we got Duridia. I was like, what is happening? But those Peridia. I had to
That's
rewind.
funny.
I was like, yeah, that was cool.
So Hu Yang's remarking incredulously about the intergalactic travel within a star whale, which is something that they knew about and they had talked about because it's part of the teachings, because he's been teaching for 25,000 years, but he just never actually believed that he would actually do it. It's something that they talked about and it was kind of like legend, folk tales, but it's real. And then Ahsoka shares that she remembers that from the stories he would tell them as when she was a youngling. So she knows Hu Yang from her entire life, right? So that's pretty
oh
cool.
yeah.
Nice building of that relationship between them. To which Hu Yang replies, "Ah, yes, the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3." And Ahsoka says, "Yes, one being the best, of course." And I love that because it's a little nod to like number one being the first Star Wars movie that we ever saw. Well, me, because I'm older than both of you, which was Star Wars, um, later known as Episode 4 or A New Hope.
A new old, yeah.
But when I saw it, it was only Star Wars. And so she's stating that's the original, or it could be referring to the first trilogy, which is the original trilogy.
That's
Which
what I
actually,
got out of it. I'm like, I think he's talking about. Honestly, it's whatever we want to interpret. I think
right,
it's
right.
Dave Filoni's message, whatever you want to put. But I interpreted first trilogy. I do want to say before we move on too much on that, I always wondered why Hu Yang was with Ahsoka, who's not a Jedi, and not with Luke, who's trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. I was like, shouldn't Hu Yang be with Luke? But then she started talking about how they knew each other. They had a relationship. So I'm like, that makes more sense. Now he's not gonna know who Luke is. He knows who Ahsoka is. So now
Right.
I
Right.
kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, so now that makes a little more sense because at first I was like, Hu Yang should be with Luke trying to rebuild the Order, not with Ahsoka, who was on a death wish. So I was like, so it was that cleared that up for me, which I appreciated. I got that line because I was always like, Hu Yang's with the wrong person right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Yu
But
Wang
plus,
wouldn't have known who Luke was anyway, because Luke was never trained in the Order.
right.
Well, that's why. Because yeah, I'm like, why
Mhm.
wasn't he with them? But I didn't know he knew Ahsoka. To me, it's like he doesn't know either of them at first. That's what I thought. So but, yeah,
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
definitely knows
weird,
Ahsoka.
right? And so the other thing is that obviously she was traveling during Mandalorian, and she was on the planet with Luke and Grogu, and when Mando showed up.
yeah.
So did she have Hu Wang at that time, or was Hu Wang still hasn't met with Ahsoka yet? Like, I kind of like want to know how they got together and if she even said anything about Luke.
That's a great story. We'll probably get in a comic book.
Hey, whatever. I mean, it's got to be
You
written
know
in a
what?
book, a comic book.
My head canon is that they've been together for 15 years. Like, where's Ahsoka been for 15 years? Maybe her and Hu Wang have been. Well, did Sabine recognize Hu Wang? Hu Wang and Sabine knew each other, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So that
Hu Wang was there when Ahsoka was training, so that obviously explains Hu Wang was with her at the time of
yeah,
Luke.
so pushes back a little bit. Yeah, at least a
Yeah.
few years. So
Mhm.
yeah, but back to the story part. When he said, "You want me to tell you a story?" And she said, "No." I was like, "Dang it! I want to hear this story so bad. I just want to hear him tell it, give us a flashback or something." I was like, "This episode's gonna be nothing but flashbacks," and we didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, because she
Yeah, I
she
kind
didn't
of
want
thought
to
the
hear a
same thing.
story. Yeah. But then she does confess to Hu Yang that she did not tell Hera about Sabine going willingly with Balin, and how she was fated to make that choice. So Hu Yang clarifies that the
Yep.
Force gives insight but does not provide all the answers. And then he confirms that Ahsoka's conclusion about Sabine is her fear. It's not actually that it's bad. It's just that's Ahsoka's fear. Then Ahsoka changes the subject and tells Hu Yang, "Go ahead and tell me a story." And then
Yep.
he starts out a long time ago
I
and
know.
far, far away.
I was like, it's like that was so
That
great.
was
I love that.
awesome. Yes.
Yeah, Dave
Uh,
Filoni, just
and this is the
master storyteller.
first time that opening crawl is made canon in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Apart from being on the screen, it's
Yeah.
actually spoken. And it confirms that the younglings in the Jedi Temple were also learning this as they grew up with Star Wars, or that we were the younglings because we grew up learning this too.
Yeah, and that was the last we saw of Ahsoka this episode. So this is really like where they're at. They're traveling now. Let's go start a new story. So
It was the same as like the last episode where Balin and them took off, and we didn't see them at all in the last episode. I almost had that feeling that that's what we were going to get with Ahsoka and Wayne.
Right, because we got a lot of Ahsoka in the last episode, so I think it's fair. It's balanced.
So I'm gonna go off on a real quick tangent. It's getting to me a little bit, but all the shows are named after the protagonists. They kind of need to give them more of a name for a show, like I don't know, Rebels or something. Ahsoka, Andor, Mandalorian. It's always just the name of the protagonist. So you're kind of always stuck on that protagonist. And so I kind of would like to be more ensemble, which they're making an ensemble, but just the title doesn't really play.
Well, that ties into what Bryce was saying, though, because you have Captain America movies. You've got
it's the Marvel thing, though. Yeah, so
right.
I'm like,
it's the Marvel thing for sure.
It's a very Marvel thing, because then the movie being, if it's going to be actually titled Heir to the Empire, I know that's the big rumor, but it hasn't even been.
Yeah, if they just call it Thrawn, I'd be upset.
Right? Yeah. No. I don't think it would be called Thrawn. I think the movie would actually have
I wouldn't be upset.
A title. Like I think Rey's movie is called New Jedi Order. I think they have confirmed that is actually the movie name, but they have not confirmed him, Filoni's movie's name, or even James Mangold's, for instance, because it's supposed to be dawning of the Force, but I don't think that's actually going to be the actual name.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dawn was in it somewhere. Dawn of the Jedi, Dawn of the
I thought
Force.
it was Dawn of the Jedi, yeah. But
I wouldn't be surprised.
That was the title of an EU book, was Dawn of the Jedi. It was the very first book in Legends.
Well, so was Heir to the Empire. That's the title of an EU book.
Right.
Isn't New Jedi Order one too?
Yes. It's also an EU title. So.
I'm not. I love
true.
Good,
that was
title.
A series.
Yeah.
That was a series. I can't remember how many. 12 books, 16 books, right in that range.
I think it was 16. It was a lot.
It was a bunch.
Yeah, I think that was the 6. I think that was the 16 one. Because I know there's also Quest. No, not Quest. Or Fate of the Jedi, and that's 8 books.
So many books. All right, let's get back to the show. Sorry, I took us on a tangent, but yeah.
No worries. So, one thing I wanted to mention though is, if you recall in the original trilogy, the swipes, George Lucas swipes, he had these swipes, but the swipes were always between 3 stories. There were always 3 stories in each of his movie. So it would be telling one part of the story, and then it would swipe to the next story, and then swipe to the next, because it was a way for him to do simultaneous storytelling, but not waste too much time. So the swipe was really fast.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we're getting a lot of original swipes, but I was trying to catch if there were any. What are the 3 stories being told? And we did talk about there's a Ahsoka story, right? And there's
Sabine and Harris.
Yeah, Sabine and Harris, and
No,
there's also but there's also the story for Balin and the villain.
Well, I feel like there's 4 in this episode if we want to break it down. If we're including the Ahsoka and traveling as part of the stories,
because it's swiped from that.
Her, then it would be Thrawn, right? Like the Thrawn storyline,
Hmm.
Balin and Shin, and then Sabine and Ezra. Like that would be four individual stories that were all going on in this episode.
Hmm. Yeah, so I was trying to catch if there were any parallels. So I'm gonna keep an eye out for that and see how that works out. But then we get the opening credit scenes, and it fades to Sabine. She's in her binders, being held captive aboard the Eye of Sion, and she confronts Balin because he's right outside her door about the deal that they had forged, and and then we see hyperspace as we've never seen before because it's the first time, of course, that they're traveling between galaxies, and it's got these beautiful rainbow colors, and it reminded me of that episode in Andor. Remember when they saw the
Mm,
all the
yeah,
rainbow, how it lit up, that phenomenon?
yeah,
Remember in Andor?
No.
yes. I
You don't remember when the
gosh
all
darn it.
the it was like they went to that was actually their cover for them to do the heist
Yes,
of
I
all
can't
the
remember.
credits.
Man, I can't remember what that was called. Now I gotta look that up.
Most of
Um,
Andor's out of my mind already.
Oh, I love Andor. That's one of my favorites. So one of my top favorite Star Wars shows. But yeah, so it reminded me of that. The beautiful colors. It was very something to watch. And it also comes out on the Halcyon too, because they see it from the Halcyon. So then they arrive at Peridia, and it's the first time in Star Wars history ever that we're in a different galaxy. So when it came out of hyperspace from that, I'm gonna call it like ludicrous speed hyperspace. I was like, what are we gonna see? Is it gonna look different? It looks the same, you know.
it was
So
called the
galaxies,
Eye.
the eye, right? And this was the Eye of Sion, right? So it's kind of funny,
Well,
interesting that it's very similar. But yeah, I'm like, oh, it looks the same. It's a galaxy, but the planet did look different. We've never seen a planet quite like this. You know, it had that ring cloud around it, which it's pretty cool.
hmm.
Yeah, we've seen that those atmospheric clouds and stuff. We saw it in Rogue One um, when they went to Edu. They had to come in when they ended up crashing because they had to come in through weather. We've seen it in Rebels that they've gone through planet atmosphere and all that, where it's print, and then they drop down below, and lo and behold, then there's hey, there's a planet.
But the first time that it's had bones in it, you know,
Well, this was definitely the
Yeah,
first whale graveyard we've ever seen. That was definitely the first, which is so sad because everybody loves the whales. Everyone we know loves the whales.
well, I know
Everyone
no,
we
not
somebody
everybody.
who's really
Not Jake.
excited
everyone
to
we
see the whale
know
Um,
loves
bones.
the whales. They just act like they don't. Everyone loves the whales, and they know they do.
I think the nerf herders were super happy to see all those whale bones.
No, they cried a little bit. They just put up a front. So
So
that
it
was
was
really
cool that
interesting.
Peridia,
Yeah.
yeah, Peridia was confirmed as the origin planet for the Night Sisters. That was pretty cool
yeah,
because
I
it shows
got
that
so.
there.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying what I got when they came in and started flying around in those big tall statues. I straight out of Lord of the Rings for me. Like it looked like
Absolutely.
statues that you would find there. I got a very Lord of the Rings vibe
Me
from
too.
that planet, and then specifically another piece on the planet that we'll get to when we get to your notes, Mike, because I know it'll probably come up.
That's actually the next note. So go ahead, Bryce. Bring it.
Oh, so the I, I don't know if they have a title. I call them a rat dog because they look like a big dog with a rat face.
Howlers.
The Howlers. Yeah.
Howlers. Okay,
Yeah.
howlers. Thank you. I must have totally missed that. They remind me of the warg from Lord of the Rings
Hmm.
as
Yeah.
well. Not as nasty, but a similar dog that's big. It's rideable. Only these howlers have personality, as
Right.
we come to find out, which I thought was such a great thing to
Yeah.
happen this episode. It was pretty darn funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
loved it.
cute.
I'm a dog lover, so yes, bring
Yeah.
the Howlers. And then usually the Howlers in Star Wars are more reptilian, but these were more like dog horse Howlers. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, they reminded me of Shredder, or not Shredder, Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like that big rat face.
It did. Yeah.
I got Princess Bride vibes. Those big rats. That's what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my next note was exactly that. Lord of the Rings type giant statues greet them as they descend to the planet, right? And then they land on a platform which has a hinge that's very similar to the one on Cetos, where they just left. And
Yes.
there we have the three Night Sisters, the Great Mothers, and their names are Actropaw, played by Gerald Prescott Gallion, who you might recognize as Madame Xanadu from The Swamp Thing. Clotho, played by Claudia Black, which is Farscape's Officer Aaron's son. And Lachesis, played by Jane Edwina Seymour, the Borg Queen from Star Trek Picard. And so those names of those three great mothers, it's really cool because in Greek mythology, they're similarly named. Atropos or Atropo was one of the three goddesses known as the Fates, and the other ones were Clotho and Lachesis, very similar to their names in this show. And they
Well,
determine the destiny itself.
yeah, it's very interesting how much that was almost exactly the same. They kept talking about the fate, how they could see the fate. I was like, this is very Greek mythology because I didn't know they
Mhm.
could do anything like that. So I think they did like 2 or 3 times. So I was like, okay, this is very a throwback or whatever you want to call out, shout out to Greek mythology. So that's very cool. So
Yeah, really
uh,
cool.
it kind of like the whole this is where they came from kind of shocked me. I'm like, so the Night Sisters we see are aren't from there. I thought they were Dathomir natives, and apparently they're not Dathomir natives. So I remember that was always kind of contention because the men are Dathomirs and the female are Dathomirs, but they're not like the same race. So that was always kind of weird. So now it's well, they're not really Dathomirs. They just lived on Dathomir. So
Mhm.
that's very interesting to
Yeah, I think
And
find
plus,
out.
the Zabraks drew them to Dathomir.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
so they're not. Yeah.
and plus there that explains why the way they manipulate the force is very different. Their magic with a CK is
Well, they
different
actually
from the force.
said magic, and I don't know if they never actually said the word magic in uh Star Wars before because it kind of a little like, oh, I don't know if I've heard anyone say magic before. And Thrawn said, well, yeah, we need your dark magic again. I was like, I
I
don't know if I ever heard the word magic in Star Wars before.
I
I
must
think
have
in
because I've
the
known it.
Caravan of Courage or whatever one of those, I think you heard it, but I don't know if those count.
They
But yeah,
count.
but I don't know if I've ever heard the word magic before. So it's kind
I
of
just know that
cool
it's
to hear.
always been magic, but with a K. So for me, it's always stuck out in my mind because it's not magic like our magic. It's magic with a
Yeah,
K, which means it's the Force. They just call it that. But
yeah, it's
the
the
Force,
forest. Yeah,
yeah, usually you can't see the Force in our galaxy or in Star Wars galaxy, but in their galaxy, you see their magic as a green. It always has a green hue, which is like when they killed Marok. When Ahsoka killed him, the green it was green
fart.
at first when it came out. Yeah, the green fart.
Yep.
So it's always green. And also in Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, whenever Marin uses the magic, it's green, right? And it's a green flame. And when she brings back the dead to fight, it's also that green
Yeah,
energy. So it's the way that they
We
manipulate.
we see it in we see it in Clone Wars and we see it in Rebels too.
yeah,
Yeah. So we have these three, and Atropos specifically is the one who cuts the threads of destiny, and that and therefore determines when an individual dies. So this is similar to the three Actropa and the other great mothers who claim to be able to read and know the fate. And the fates are personified as three very old women, which they were playing, and their names were Clotho, the spinner, Lachesis, the allotter, and Atropo, the inflexible. So Clotho spun the thread of human fate, Lachesis dispensed it, and then Atropo cut the threads. So they sense that Sabine is a Jedi, and so then they place her in confinement with their little floating orbs. That was really cool.
it's so interesting that they sense she is a Jedi, even though she has no force. But they don't sense anything interesting about Balin or Shin Hati. So you can tell the light side of the force is in her, and that's what they sense. They don't sense the dark side of the other ones. Well, maybe
Right.
they sense it, but it's not a threat. But it's just so interesting that it's more than just intent and yeah, it was more than just intent. It's actually, I guess,
The goodness.
yeah, it's so interesting how they didn't even blink like at first. Like the one without force power, we sense Jedi. They're
When
like,
they
oh,
said that,
yeah,
I thought it
yeah,
was gonna be, I thought it was gonna be Balin and Shin
yeah,
and Ahsoka, if anything. But for sure, I thought Balin because he is the only one that really was a Jedi.
yeah.
You know, he actually was a
Right.
Jedi in the Order.
Yeah, but there was something interesting. Since I know we're going out of chronological, but it kind of explains why they didn't sense it in Balin or Shin. It's when Balin says Sabine was trained in the ways to be a Jedi. I trained you to be something more. And
Right.
it's not, and I don't think that's being a Sith. I think that is being a gray Jedi, both the users of the light and the dark.
I'm yeah. We could get philosophical, but to me, it's not even Jedi or Sith, or it's either gonna go the way of the light, or you. If you don't go that, any other way leads to darkness. So anyone who says there's a dark Jedi, I think eventually becomes needs to pick a path. So yeah, I think it just you can't resist it. So that's why I'm like, if he's thinking he can stay neutral, it's not going to happen. It will eventually lead to the
And
dark side.
maybe
He's
that's
gonna have to.
why he decided to come to that planet because he knows there's something calling him there as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he said that because he asked Shin, "Can
Mhm.
you hear it? It's calling to me."
I'm
Yes,
excited
There's
to find out what
definitely
that is. Yeah,
yes, and that part of my notes. Let me give it to that part because that's way down here. But that part, or I'll just bring it back up when it comes up in my notes
yeah,
because I do want to add to that because that's an important part too. But the next part of my notes is when Sabine's inside her cell, right? She went from one cell to another, and now she's like regretting her choices, right? And she's like, Ahsoka, you know, she whispers it like, "What have I done?" And then she attempts to use the Force on the door, and then you see like the
yeah.
dust coming. You're like, she's doing it, she's doing it. Ah, just
right.
kidding. It was the Star Destroyer coming in. You know, it was the Chimera, which
Dave
was pretty
Filoni's even
awesome.
messing with her.
Yeah. Although it's ambiguous because she might have been doing something. We just really don't
Yeah,
know.
very true.
It's ambiguous.
Did I
But we do
freeze?
see, yeah, you froze.
Well, can you
It's
hear me
okay,
though? Okay,
Oh,
John.
as long as
John.
you
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
me.
still hear you. It's a good freeze. You got a cute smile. We can see your dimples, John, so it's
Yeah,
good.
this is my dimples.
So then we see Thrawn with the Legion of the Night Troopers.
Well, I
Uh
don't talk about that. A Star Destroyer, the Chimera.
yes, the Chimera.
Holy moly! When that came out, I thought it was so smart to make it look rebuilt like that. I was like, I love this.
It has seen better
It's
days.
been 15, 20 years since we've seen it. It's just like there how where are they going to get materials to mine it? It's different galaxies. I'm sure they don't have the same materials. So it's
Yeah,
like they really did their best. And I really thought that was really smart and cool. So I really love the Frankenstein, the Star Destroyer.
me too. Loved it, loved it. And of course, I love the Chimera. It still has the paintings underneath of the Isalamiri, so I loved all that.
Yeah.
I ate it up. Uh,
Yes.
then we see Thrawn inside, right, with his Legion of Night Troopers, and they've been repaired with this like red tape and the gold soldering. Um, and then I even wondered, are these perhaps troopers that have been brought back from the dead with the Night Sister magic because they're kind of weird.
I believe they are, and I'm almost wondering if this is a play from the Death Troopers book.
That was a good book.
Um, because yeah, I mean, because I think that ties into Project Necromancer, which we now know what that
Hmm.
is, because they are doing nothing but loading up caskets, coffins, whatever the heck you want to call them, capsules. But there are people in those capsules,
Well, if you
and
Hmm.
remember in Rebels, uh Ezra gets near one of those and like a spirit comes out and like possesses him. So I'm like, I wonder if that's where they're going, or if they're trying to get like spirits out of those caskets. It's really interesting what they're gonna do. But yeah,
Hmm.
I do remember that they're trying to. That was a way to bring back their mother if she could possess Ezra or something like that. So
Hmm. that gave me really strong black hole vibes, with when he was using they were the crewmen, but he turned them into robots, remember, in the black hole? And also
You
the
asking me
space.
to remember a movie from like 40 years ago? I haven't watched that movie in so. It's been probably like
I
30,
love
40
that
years.
movie. It's on Disney
I
Plus.
loved it
Watch
too.
it. It's a
When I
good one.
was younger, I loved that little droid. I don't remember anything about it. I just
Bob.
loved the
His name
droid,
is Bob.
Bob, and I thought it was so cool. And such a cool. I think I got the toy too. I don't remember anything about that movie. That is a deep cut to bring up for you.
But and then his right hand man, Thrawn's right hand man, his name is Enoch, and Enoch is known as the scribe of judgment in the Bible, and it comes from the Hebrew root HNK or Hinnock, right? And that means to train, initiate, dedicate, or inaugurate. So I thought it was pretty cool making all these connections to
Didn't
our. Huh?
So I heard this could be a throwback to one of George Lucas's first movies. I think it was a THX 138.
1138.
I think like the police officers had like a gold mask in that, just like that, in that, or the officers, whatever you want to call them. Is that the one that sci-fi? Is that the THX 138? I don't know. It's another deep cut, but I think
Yeah,
that they had a gold mask just like Enoch did. So I wonder if this is like a shout out to that, because it was
possibly.
definitely an odd choice when I first saw it. I was like, I've never seen anything like this,
I
and so
liked it a lot.
I did see someone online post. It must be a throwback to these people from that movie. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, it 100% is.
Oh, you just looked it up.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you
Yeah.
see. Sorry.
Oh, it sure is. It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they weren't really gold; they were silver.
But still, it's that metallic, and it's
Yeah, no,
shiny like
100%.
chrome.
Yeah,
That definitely is
100%.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. At first, I know Filoni put that guy out there to just mess with people. Like, who's Enoch? Who's Enoch? Everyone's gonna be like,
He's no one.
it's Ezra. I know it's no one. I know it's no one. But he put it out there to mess with people. Not he's messing with people at this point.
I did think that when I was like,
Yeah.
why does this trooper have this face?
And then he
I
had a
thought too.
name, and then
I
he
thought it's
kept
gonna be
popping up.
it's gonna be
I was like,
Ezra. That's what I thought at first too.
I was
I'm
like,
not
the
gonna
fact
lie.
he keeps bringing him up was like, he wants us to think this is someone. If we didn't have Marak already, people would be like, "Oh, this is someone." All kinds of theories. But I'm like, no, he's just messing with us. He's just
Oh, the
trolling
theory out there now is that he's Star
us.
Killer.
I was thinking he's a zombie, something that they did resurrect.
But what was
No,
Starkiller be
I
doing with
think that.
Thrawn?
Yeah, I do think that. But people just come up with things,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of.
That's why in the black hole, Jonathan, they are zombies. So that's what I like too, because you got to rewatch the black hole. They were zombies. That was like the big reveal at the end. That because he said they were robots, but they weren't. He was killing his crew and turning them into like cyborg zombies.
Borg.
Mm-hmm. So Thrawn, he's happy to see Morgan there, of course, and he thanks the Night Sister Great Mothers, acknowledging that they have been exiled on Peridia. They had no way to get back.
Did we only see 3 of those Night Sister mothers? Is that it?
Yes,
There's
3
no
mothers.
We don't see anyone else. No.
We've only seen the 3 mothers.
When we
yeah.
see the tribe on Dathomir, there's a bunch, and there's all kinds of tiers. So there's just even like warriors. So I
Right.
want to
You
know
mean
if
are you talking about the nomads?
No.
No. The Night Sisters on Dathomir. There's
On
like a
Dathomir.
tribe of them, and so that's
Yeah.
I didn't know if
Oh,
we were going to
gotcha.
see a tribe or it's just the 3 mothers just chilling there by themselves.
Still
Kinda-
have
So far,
2
it's just the
episodes
3.
left.
What was that? You guys talked at the same time.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. What you said,
Did we lose him,
Mike Freeze?
Mike?
What is that? Is that
I'm gonna
me?
hit
What is
pause.
what?
Yeah, there's 3 Night Sister mothers. Okay.
Right?
We have 2 episodes left, so I think there's very strong possibility we see a tribe or something more than just the 3 of them.
Yeah, I hope so. I kind of don't want it to be just the three. I kind of want to see. I would like to see them be a threat in our universe. Have a occupy a planet or something. I think that'd be really cool.
Well, they're definitely partnered with Thrawn, so they're part
Yeah.
of his whole plan to come back and retake the galaxy. And I think the Night Sisters are pretty pissed that there are no more Night Sisters in our galaxy. They were, the genocide that happened in our galaxy of all the Night Sisters.
Right.
So they want to
Yeah. I'm,
they want to have a comeback.
I'm sure Thrawn promised them Dathomir again too,
Hmm.
which means I think a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Right. And so then Thrawn, he does meet Balin, and he knows that he was a general. So he calls him General Skull of the Jedi Order. And then Balin tells him that he parted ways with the Jedi Order a long time ago. And Thrawn comments that he would not be the first. And I'm
Right.
sure he's referring to Anakin because
Oh, 100%.
he
You
knows
know what?
Anakin intimately.
Yeah, that was really cool that he said you'd not be the first. I'm like, okay, Anakin. Then for a second, I was like, maybe Ezra. Does he know? Yeah. So, but
No, Anakin for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh, and then when he's asking about who else is there, Thrawn, he appreciates Sabine's role because she's the reason that they were able to find him. And so he recognized her as a familiar person as well. Like, nice to see a familiar face. Although he's never actually met her. He's met Hera and he's met Ezra, but he's never actually seen Sabine face to face. So this is the first time he knows of her, but this is the first time they see each other. Um, and he gives her the Howler, which is the dog horse transportation, and the intel that he has on Ezra's whereabouts.
yeah, that was really interesting. He's like, thank you for helping us. We're gonna honor your deal. Bye. I was like, that was really.
Well, and then we find out there's more to that anyway. That
Yeah.
he
I
does
don't.
fulfill the promise, but
So
then sends Balin and Shin after them.
So I don't quite understand that unless it's solely just to be evil and maniacal. I don't. I don't quite understand why let her go and then go hunt her down. That's
Well, because he
Because
wants her to.
he
He
can't
can't
find
find
Ezra.
Ezra, right? And he knows that she will. And so as soon
Yeah.
as Sabine leaves, he orders Shin and Balin to follow her.
why does
And
he
then-
care if they're gonna leave? Unless this is like a revenge thing.
I
he
think
just
there's more to it because he does not like Jedi. I don't think he really cares for really. Yeah, I mean, unless you're a full blown Sith, he doesn't like. He's like, nah, because he even said like, we're leaving, even if Balin and Shin don't come back, we're leaving them here. Like to me, he just does not care.
Well, they're not Jedi.
Their
So
fate.
I don't think
But they're
he
not
has
Sith
anything
either,
against.
right? They're
He
not.
doesn't
They're
have
not
he doesn't
any.
have anything against Jedi because he was really good friends with Anakin. If you read the Thrawn Alliances, he was really good friends with Anakin, who was a Jedi, but then he was also really good friends with Vader, who was a Sith. So I don't think Thrawn cares about our petty associations or what
But
we
I
do
think
in our
he
galaxy.
knows that. I think he knows that Anakin is Vader, though.
He does. He figures it out. But even so, he doesn't really care. He doesn't get into the religious parts because he's just a tactician and he's very focused. And so, in terms of he just hates Ezra because Ezra, he has a personal beef with him. So Ezra's the one that got him
Yeah.
stranded there. And so he does not like Ezra at all. Ezra's a thorn in his side for
So
sure.
this is all just for revenge. Yeah,
I think partially. I mean,
Yeah.
Thrawn never lays out all his cards, so you never know.
Right.
And so he does tell Balin and Shin to follow her, and once she finds Ezra, to kill them both, right? And then when they leave, he does tell Morgan Elsbeth that if they come back or not, that's fine. We're still gonna go, and it's fine by me if they get stranded. So he doesn't care one way or the other. And then it swipes over to Sabine's story, and she gets attacked by the nomads. Sort of like they're kind of like pretty as sand people.
Yeah.
And then her
Yeah,
howler abandons
I have
her.
a stretch theory about that.
Tell us, Bryce. I want to hear it.
So, well, we can talk about how Sabine, managed 5 of them, I think.
Just
managed
murder them. Just cold-blooded
Right.
murder them.
It was self-defense, but
The women
did-
and children
did-
too, not just the men,
did-
but the women
she
and
did
children too.
She did savagely take them out. But jumping ahead to when Shin and Balin go to that scene and where they say they survive, right? And this is why I always pay attention to the music, because Shin's like, and we have people, and she goes to draw her sword and her saber, and says, and Balin's like, no, the enemy of our enemy is our friends for now. But then there's 5 of them on that ledge or ridge or whatever, and they don't pan in on their faces. What do? They pan behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music changes to pretty much the same music as the Knights of Ren and Rise of Skywalker. When Chewie leaves the ship to go get Rey, and they watch him, and then what does the camera do? Pans behind 2 of the Knights of Ren, and that music plays. It's not exactly the same, but it is close. And they never zoom in on any of their faces.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I'm wondering if they bring them back and they are the Knights of Ren. I mean, some of the devices and the staffs and blades that they were using were very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a huge stretch.
Right.
I
Well, the Knights of
don't
Ren
know if
were
it's possible, but it was kind of. Go ahead.
the Knights of Ren were Force sensitive, though, so we know that from the comics. So these individuals, unless they could learn, I mean, they've already stated that all living things have the Force. So it's quite possible that they do have the Force. They just haven't been trained. So maybe Balin can train them to become more. And so that's possible.
It's possible. Yeah, it is a little bit of a stretch.
Oh, I said it was a stretch, but it was just very.
But
coincidence how
if they're right, you called it. That's huge cred. If that's right, I think they're just cannon fodder. I think.
Yeah, I think they're Maroc phase 2.
Yeah, I think it's just cannon. It's stormtroopers that die and we never hear anything about. But that'd be cool. It'd be definitely another deeper level to this.
That would be cool. Like more backstory for the Knights of Ren,
which we don't really get,
other than the comics. The comics are really cool.
And next week, honestly, next we get my favorite part: the exposition with her and her dog.
Oh, that's my next note too. So Sabine's Howler reconnects with her, and he's sorry for leaving her. I'm like,
she's like yells at you, coward! You left me. I thought that was so great. I was like, "That's like Star Wars."
Hilarious.
I love that too. Oh, one thing I want to say before we move on is notice how Sabine always is stronger when she leans towards her hate or fear, right? Towards the dark side energies, because it's more seductive, it's easier. And so she's like afraid and angry at that point when they attack her, and that brings out more strength from her. So
I also noticed that every time she fights, it's the blaster first, which she's comfortable with as a Mandalorian, and then it's like every time somehow she loses her blaster, which is kind of funny.
It's like, oh, I got this lightsaber too.
It's her trope. Oh, I lost my blaster. Then she brings out the lightsaber. So, and 2 of the 3 times she's bringing out her lightsaber, she's been successful. So I think she's getting better at that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so then the Howler takes her to find the little naughty, right? The little naughty, which are these little Ninja Turtles, right? And then they lead her to their village.
So cool.
They're super cute. And they lead her to their village where, of course, Ezra has been hiding. And they're reunited.
I thought it was kind of interesting that Sabine had the Rebel Alliance symbol on her shoulder and not her version. Remember her version is like a phoenix kind of? I thought that was
the bird.
I thought she's always had that on her shoulder. So I kind of was like, oh, that's different. But
I think she has it on the other shoulder.
She might have it on the other one. I didn't pay close enough attention because I think that one.
I think it changes because I remember one episode in Rebels. It's the Morai. It's the owl on one episode. So I know it changes.
Yeah, she paints during the course of Rebels like at least
all the
four
time.
times.
I just
Her
don't
Yeah, it's at
remember.
hair,
least
her
four
Yeah,
times.
outfits, yeah.
I just thought
Yeah.
she always on one side had her symbol, so it's different that she had the other one, but not
Mhm.
bad or anything. Just kind of was different. Those guys were adorable. Yeah,
Yeah, they
and
were super cute. And I loved how they were saying, Ezra Bridger.
yeah,
They're like, think of
Pretty funny.
Ezra Bridger.
yeah.
Super cute. And so then it from this it's well, um, he does. Ezra's happy to see her, right? He thinks he's going home, and she's like,
Yeah.
let's not talk about. Let's just
Yeah,
let me be
yeah, yeah,
happy.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not get into all the weeds. Let's just let me be happy
Just
for a
ignore
change.
that. Don't worry about that. Because immediately it would
Yeah.
change the tone. Right now she's
Yeah, it
happy.
would.
She had to explain how she got there and everything. He would be
By
like, I can't.
betraying
I
Ahsoka, giving them up to
he's
Balin.
because also if you think about it, he sacrificed 20 years of his life to get Thrawn away from everything, and
Yeah.
she might have just made all that in vain.
Yes.
So it's like I've been in this exile for 20 years. You just take him right back.
Because I think it's only been 10, but he asks her,
Is it? I thought
uh,
it's been
I think it's 9.
10.
It's 9 after Battle of Yavin. So it's probably been like
Oh, okay.
12 years only. But still, he does ask her, it did work,
Well,
right?
wait. How soon? How soon
Rebels
after?
was 5 years before Battle of Yavin, I think.
Yeah, it's been like 10 to
So
15.
so yeah, let's say
Because
15,
the end of
14.
Rebels, they haven't quite
It's
got
like 14,
to.
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on Yavin
Uh,
at the end of Rebels. They're on Yavin. The Rebel base is there. Um, but I still think like the events we're not at that point because I think Rebels takes place before Solo and it definitely takes place before Rogue One.
No, Rebels is after Solo. Because Rebels leads right up to like Andor and episode 4. Rebels ends before episode 4.
Yeah, we know that. But I
Hmm.
think I
Right,
think
but
there's a
there's
gap
time though.
between.
Yeah, there is a gap. There's a time gap though.
Well, because yeah, you see young. Don't we see a young Luke in Rebels?
A young Leia. Because Ezra's the same age as Luke and Leia.
Oh, we don't see Luke. I'm thinking Obi
We
Wan.
do see Luke. We see Luke on Tatooine.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
Rebels?
because that yeah, on that episode Twin Sons when Ezra
Oh
goes
yes,
looking for him and
that's
he's
right.
after he kills Maul,
That's right.
he goes to the moisture farm and
We I'm
Luke's
sure
running
we
across
all
the
have the timeline book. We need to just look it up one day and figure this out.
So getting back to
yeah.
Ahsoka
It's
though. So getting back to Ahsoka. So he finds her and then he asks her, what I did worked, right? Tell me it worked. And she's like, yeah, it worked because he did it to help end the war that was happening. And so it did work. And now she just undid the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because Thrawn's going back and Thrawn's a big
I mean
menace.
it
Does
it worked partially worked because in Ezra's mind he thinks that by eliminating Thrawn he eliminated war, but he didn't though.
well no,
Like
I think
there's
he was trying to save Lothal. And did save
he
Lothal.
did do that, but
Yeah.
if he's thinking he prevented something larger, he did not.
Well, but it led to it because if he hadn't done that, then we might not have had the success that we had afterwards. So it's all part of the puzzle. It's all because if Thrawn had never been taken out of the equation, I
Luke
think
would have just
Rebels.
beat him. Don't no. It would have still happened. Luke would have still
Whiny
beat
Luke?
the
No, why? I
Luke
don't
would
think
have
so.
still beat the Empire.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I get weird. I mean, between Thrawn and Krennic, they were trying to gain the Emperor's favor with the TIE Defender program and the Death Star. So
Right.
by eliminating Thrawn, you did eliminate the competition that Krennic had. But we still got the Death Star, and a lot of death and destruction came with that.
Right.
So I don't know. It just eliminated the competition, but it wouldn't have eliminated the war. Even if they scrapped Krennic's idea, they would have went with Thrawn's idea, and there still would have been a battle. Only maybe the battle would have went the other way because the side offenders were pretty gnarly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then it swipes to Balin, who tells Shin, and we're getting back to that story, that Ezra is from the Bakken Jedi. And this is something he totally made up. I'd never heard of that before. Checked it up on the
Is
wiki,
it
and
Bakken or Boken? I think it's Boken.
well, Bokken,
I think
Bokken
it's
Jedi,
probably, yeah.
which sounds like broken, right?
I did something like, did you say broken? Because broken makes sense. He wasn't
Yes,
really ever a Jedi.
but
His
he said
master
Bokken.
was not, was out, he had,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe
So and he's
broken? Yeah. But
but he said Bokken Jedi who were trained in the wild after the temple fell. So he says that implies that there were others that were also trained in the wild. And then Shin says, "Oh, so like me," and he tells her, "No, you are much more than a Jedi," which is what you had brought up earlier, Bryce.
Yeah.
Um, and he feels something is stirring on the planet even more powerful than Thrawn and the Night Sisters. And this might be the same great power that Palpatine had sensed beyond the unknown region as described in the Aftermath Empire's End, when it says, quote, the Empire was convinced that something waited for him out there, some origin of the Force, some dark presence formed of malevolent substance. He said he could feel the waves of it radiating out and that the way was clear. The Emperor called it a signal, conveniently one that only he could hear. Even his greatest enforcer, Vader, seemed oblivious to it, and Vader also claimed mastery over the Force, did he not? And Gallius Rex believed that Palpatine had gone mad. But he kept sensing that
it's the
presence of a
great,
really strong malevolent
it's the
force.
great progenitor. Is that the name? It's the Drengir. That's what they call him, right? The great
The
progenitor?
leader of the Dringir, yes.
Yeah. That's what it is, the Drengir. So
Yeah.
well, I don't know.
So
They can't make it too big because then it's going to overshadow Thrawn unless they want to overshadow Thrawn. But then it's really going to throw us a curveball.
Yeah,
So, so
I don't think
so
that's
so then
possible.
I'm like, I'm really kind of, I don't know. This is complicated. I was like, do we want a second big terrible thing besides Thrawn? It's going to really, something's got to be. It was the problem with the Game of Thrones. Really, you had two at the end of last season. You had two big bads, Cersei and then the Night King, and they kind of didn't know the right order to do it, and it kind of made it a little convoluted. And I think that's why people don't like the season finale.
mhm.
So it's when you have
It could be an object, though. It may not be a sentient being at all. It could be an object that's calling to him.
yeah. I
Because it doesn't
don't
really
yeah.
specify. It just says something is calling to me.
But
What do you
very
think his
powerful.
plans are? Because he talks about he wants to end the cycle.
Right. He wants to end the cycle because it's been repeating over and over, where it's the
It almost
Sith
sounds
against
like he
the
wants to
Jedi.
get rid of the Force. Is that what he's trying to get at? Because
That would be the path of the open hand.
so yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's his game here. Because
I kind of
what's I don't know how.
feel the Empire, the Republic, all of that is repeating, right? Like we saw it in the Phantom Menace with the Chancellor, the bureaucrats, and then that get overrode, and Palpatine steps in. Palpatine makes the clone army. You know, everything's for the Republic, which then becomes the Empire. We've
Which
asked
then
the
becomes the
Empire,
First Order. Mhm.
right? But remember, though, but we've got the New Republic now, and Mon Mothma is the Chancellor, but she's not making decisions by herself. She has bureaucrats around her, just like
Right.
Chancellor
It's
Valorum
shifting
did.
from one side to the other. It's going from light to the dark to the light to the dark.
Right. And I think he is trying to stop that cycle of just, it's just that ever wheel of, you know, this, that, and everything else, to where I think he's just trying to be as powerful as he can
Yeah, I think it might
to,
be a level above that. I don't think he cares about who's in charge because he did mention the Jedi when he was talking about the cycle. The Jedi, he said the Jedi fall and then they raise up and they fall. So I think he's thinking about thousands of years.
He also said that he does like the idea of that the Jedi stood for.
maybe he didn't like the truth and the
He
weakness,
didn't
is what
like
he
the way
said.
that it was because but the thing is there were many Jedi who were dissatisfied. Qui-Gon Jinn was dissatisfied. Right? Ahsoka was dissatisfied. So they have a lot more in common than we think because and what's Darth Tyrannus? Qui-Gon's
Dooku.
master. Dooku was
Count Dooku.
dissatisfied, right? So you have all these Jedi who left. Well, there's the lost 20. So all those 20 Jedi masters left the Jedi Order because they were all dissatisfied. So something was happening to the Jedi Order that it was no longer upholding its true values, which it seems like Balin wants to get back to that, to establish something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking he wants to get rid of the Force or block people from using the Force. Something crazy like that. Because I don't really. To me, it has to be kind of super big level, is what I'm thinking. So I
Mm.
don't know. This is it's really
It's, a,
interesting to see
it's a,
what he's
to be
going to do.
continued.
I do
Yes.
starting to feel some tension between him and Shin, and so I don't know where they're going to go with that. I honestly think he's not going to be happy. Shin's not going to be happy unless Sabine is dead, and I don't necessarily think that for Balin. I think Balin's fine when she's alive, even maybe wants to train her. But I think that's where they might have some conflict too, because I think Shin 100% wants Sabine dead, and I think that's going to be a showdown.
I think
So we'll
Balin
see.
favors Shin. I mean, I think she's definitely his preferred Padawan because she has the Force.
Well,
I
that's
see.
yeah.
I get. So I actually agree with John. I definitely see um, Shin. I, I feel like she's evolving, and I know why she said, the actress, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, said this was her favorite episode, and I could see why, because she had a ton of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the sense when she looked at Sabine at one moment, it wasn't a look of I want to kill you. It was a different look. I can't explain it, but it didn't feel to me that she was wanting to fight her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if, as Shin's questioning things as the episode goes on, if she doesn't fight Balin, like she doesn't agree at some point with what he is trying to do and feels it's wrong.
Well, yeah, he's not letting her in on
Right,
his plan right now,
exactly.
and that can cause tension. I know if
Mm-hmm.
my boss like, we're gonna do this, and I say why, and he doesn't tell me why, I'm like, tell me why. So he's not letting her in. So I think that can definitely cause some
Tension for
issues
sure.
between. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely she was questioning him. Why are we doing this? Why don't we just do this? Stuff like that. So it's interesting. So I
Yeah,
think
and
we're.
I'm down.
Yeah, I just say I
I'm
think that's
actually
going to be a storyline going forward. We're going to see some kind of split between them.
yeah. Well, we only have a couple of episodes left, so better be fast.
Right.
Ugh.
So I'm at my last bullet, and of course it swipes back to the Great Mothers, and they're warning Thrawn that they sense that a Jedi is coming on the Travelers, which are the Purgle, and he wants to know everything about Ahsoka. And then Morgan tells him, no, but she's dead. Balin assured me she's dead. And he's like, nope. He's like, we need to assume that she's alive. So just let me know everything that you know about her. And then the Great Mothers agree with him, and they use their dark magic and reply that the threat of destiny demands it. So they can see, because they're the fates, so they can see that this is coming. That Ahsoka's on her way there. They don't know that it's
Right.
Ahsoka, but they know that
But
the Jedi is coming.
So here's something I think could happen. Ahsoka might have to have a choice coming up. Go help Ezra and Sabine in their fight against Balin and all the stormtroopers that are heading there and the nomads, or go after Thrawn before he leaves. Because remember, she's always been about stopping Thrawn. Well, even the sacrifice Ezra to stop Thrawn. So I think her "I choose life" moment, she changes her priorities. So I think she's gonna have this choice and go out and save Ezra and let Thrawn go. So I think we're definitely gonna see something along that line.
yeah, I
And she'll take
I
care of him.
agree. She has
She'll
her
take care
mind
of him
made
in the
up.
movie.
I mean, she promised Hera that she would find Ezra and Sabine and bring them back. Like
Right.
but remember what Morgan said too. Going back to your bullet point, Mike, and why I think he does not like, you know, Jedi is I know the Anakin thing, but he also knows Anakin is Vader, so that's probably why he's still okay with it because of that prior relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Morgan said Balin assured me that she was dead, and he looked right at her and goes, "And Balin was also a former Jedi, so he doesn't
Right.
trust Jedi at all." And that's why
Right.
I feel strongly about why he does not give a crap if Balin and
Right.
Shin make it back. He would
Well,
prefer
because
that they
remember,
didn't.
for all he knows, the Jedi did betray the Republic because that was the PR spin that was laid out to the whole galaxy.
Sure.
So he doesn't know that he doesn't really know that Palpatine was orchestrating this whole thing because he's not in with the Sith. So for all that Thrawn knows is the Jedi try to betray their leader, and so he doesn't trust the Jedi because they're traitors. And so in his mind, Jedi are traitors. That's true.
Yeah, and you don't get the sense, and you never get the sense with Balin and Shin that they're Sith. Like you
Right.
just
They're
don't.
not. No. They're not
Even
Sith,
though
that's for sure.
Balin's in a a black outfit, he still has like a gunmetal gray pauldrons and
Right.
um and guys, it's just such a
Well,
shame
a lot of Jedi
he's
dressed
not
in
with us
black.
anymore. But he's just,
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean Anakin did,
yeah, Anakin was
Luke
in all
did,
black. Hmm.
um,
So that doesn't necessarily mean
but
that you're a
Shin's not.
Sith.
You know what I mean? Shin's in gray. Like
Hmm.
she is gray. It's very neutral,
Hmm.
neutral gray. It's so you don't see that.
Maybe Shin is
That's
going to be the birth of the Gray Jedi,
and this could
and
be.
Balin's planning for her
Um,
to be the first of the Gray Jedi.
yeah, so I feel like this thing can go so many different ways, but we know ultimately it's setting up Filoni's movie. Um,
Right.
so we'll probably get Mando season 4 before that movie comes out. I'm sure we'll get more answers as to what's going on.
Hmm.
But
And a little bit older Grogu too.
All right, guys. Let's go through our final thoughts right now. What were your guys' final thoughts on this episode?
go for it, Mike.
Final thoughts. I really enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to what's coming up in this next penultimate episode or part. It's wrapping up, so I'm excited. Although I know it's going to lead up to the movie, so I'm not too excited, but excited nonetheless.
Yeah,
Uh,
oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
it's gonna be kind of similar to what my overall thoughts was. This is really good story, building for story. More characters than just Ahsoka, which is I love ensembles, so I think it's a really wise choice. It's going to be really interesting to see what they go forward from here. Like I said, we're probably gonna have that choice from Ahsoka. Uh, it sounds like their little village of nomads probably gonna be attacked by stormtroopers and nomads, and then the two fallen Jedi. So it's gonna be a kind of a interesting battle. But Ezra doesn't have a lightsaber. I mean, maybe he'll take her lightsaber and she'll use blasters. But they
Well,
are down kind of someone.
Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber. She never
Yeah,
built one, so
yeah.
that
So
is
there's only
Ezra's
one
lightsaber.
lightsaber
She's
we count.
modified it though. It doesn't really look like his anymore. It looks like a cross between his and actually Cal Kestis' lightsaber.
Sorry, my dog was playing with the chew toy. But yeah,
Guys,
so I'm really excited for this next episode to see where it goes from here. So I'm still way on board with this show right now.
Yeah, I I really enjoyed the reveals where we knew they were going to happen at some point. I actually thought they would happen 7 and 8. They happened in 6, both in the same episode, and it didn't feel like it was forced. It was
mm-hmm.
very natural. Um, definitely story driven. Definitely, Mike. I see your point about the different stories. We kind of have 4 of them in this episode. I don't. I don't. I feel like 7 and 8 is just going to be a part 1, part 2 finale, um,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So I'm excited. Very excited to see where it's going. Knowing Balin, just the way his character was. There was always a different agenda, and now it's known that, hey, I'm here for a different reason, actually. So, be interested to see how that plays out, along with Thrawn leaving, because Thrawn has to leave. We know he gets on the Eye of Sion. It's in the trailers. So it's not a surprise that he leaves, but
Well, I
what
think the Eye of
happens.
Sion. I think it attaches to his chimera. That's what I think.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's what they're doing. But he actually walks out on the Ion Sion. If you see like that picture of him walking from behind before they actually revealed it
Right.
was Lars,
Mhm.
he's on this Eye of Sion.
Right, because it's all new and shiny. Right.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Well, that's our review for Far Far Away. Was that what it's called? I can't remember.
Yes.
Far
Yes,
Far Away.
and Dave Filoni told us
Far,
back in April what this episode was going to be called and who was going to be in it. So,
All right. Make sure you're following us on YouTube at the Virtual Cantina Network and on Instagram at Virtual Cantina Network, on X on at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at Cantina Virtual Cantina Network, and Hive at Virtual Cantina, and TikTok at Virtual Cantina. And of course, the mother channel where all this is located is the Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 Facebook page. It's where we have 40,000 of us there right now. Avid fans of Star
60,000.
Wars.
we're
It's a
over
lot.
60,000.
I think it's 40,000 active.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great place to go for all things Star Wars, and we have plenty of other shows for you guys. What are the shows, guys?
We've got tonight we had the
We have,
Daughters of the Galaxy. Great show.
that was Wednesday night.
Oh, that's right. Wednesday night. Sorry. We
Today's
recorded this
Friday,
on
remember? You
Yeah,
forgot
today's Friday. Sorry. So Sunday we've got
Wednesday night.
Unifying Force coming up. Yep. Sunday we've got Unifying Force, followed by alternating with our comic book review show, which is every other.
Yep.
We're on first and
Yep.
third, they're second and fourth.
We'll be back October 1st.
Mm-hmm. And then we have on Mondays the Rebels Revisited show, which is a great show
which
too.
you were just the guest host on.
I was.
Go
and
watch
I
that
enjoyed
episode. It's
a
a good one. Yeah, Mike's
And
on
then-
it. And,
especially if you're Team Mike.
Right. And then Wednesday was Daughters of the Galaxy, the Assad's Ventress episode. That alternates now with the Nerf Herders Council. So every other Wednesday we now have a show every Wednesday. And then
I was on the last
along.
episode. I was on the last episode.
That was a good one
go
too.
back and watch
Doing
that.
you can do it in the draft.
If you're on Team John, go watch that one.
Oh, I'm Team John. I'm on that. I'm on that train. And then on Tuesdays we do have our happy hour and our Ahsoka. What is it called? The Ahsoka support group.
Yep.
So that's Tuesdays live. So
everybody takes a break from Zoom and then comes up back on after the episode's done. And Thursday is our watch along, so we've now watched this at least 3 times. By the time we do our show, watch it Tuesday when it comes out, watch it Wednesday again, then weekly watch along Thursday, and Friday you get this.
Make sure and subscribe to watch all these things, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Please comment. Please comment to anything we're talking about. Like I said, pick a team, me, Bryce, Mike, whoever's right.
All 3 of us.
I think Bryce is probably more right than us, but
but if you do comment, I will respond because I love responding to comments. So go ahead and comment. I'll respond to you. I promise.
Please.
All right.
Keep the conversation going.
May the force
be with you guys.
May the force be with you.